Disclaimer, this video is longer than an overweight woman's breast after entering the stages of postpartum. Now, I didn't intend for the video to be this doggone long. However, I kind of got into what the hell it was that I was talking about. Started rambling left and right, stuttering on words like I don't usually do. But knowing how I operate, I do everything in one take, so I ain't gonna record it again. Alright, so you're gonna have to deal with it. I understand it's long as hell, but like I said, you're gonna have to deal with it. Nonetheless, let's get into the video. Alright, I got a couple of questions in the comment sections, past couple of videos regarding what books do I read, and also who are some of my comedy influences. So I figured instead of making a separate video for both, why not mélanger Rosetta Stone, Haitian Creole, that means you know, polymerization, kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh.
I'm afraid you're mistaken.
In Dragon Ball Z, Fusion, huh?
Fusion.
I didn't do the dance right, but nonetheless, you get the point. So why not get both points, put them in one video? So my book collection, now it's well documented. I read the thesaurus. I also read the dictionary as well. However, I do have some books here that I have read over the course of the past 3 years. Some that I have read, some that I have not read. So I figured, why not paint the picture so you understand where the intellectual mind that I happen to have comes from and what makes me the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. So here first we got the Behold a Pale Horse. Now for those of you who happen to be woke and understand conspiracy theory, this here book right here is absolutely masterful. So if you want to dive deep into conspiracy theory, critical thought, stuff like that, I would suggest you read a book like this. Who is it made by? Mr. William Bill Cooper, or Bill William Cooper, whatever the case was. You know, Bill and William can be, you know, swapped in and out for each other. Behold a Pale Horse. Phenomenal book right here. Go on Amazon, go and find it. It is sold there. I believe it's also in Barnes & Nobles. Actually, I'm not too sure if they actually have it sold there, but nonetheless, I would suggest you read a book like this. Now, if you're gonna go make a YouTube channel and base it off of books like this, keep an eye over the back of your shoulder. If you happen to be in one of those, I don't know if you watch Yu-Gi-Oh, not Yu-Gi-Oh, Naruto, but you know those bingo books where they have those people's names in there? Yeah, your name might just end up in there. The FBI will be at your door. So next book that I happen to have here, The Uncivil War Between Blacks and Niggers. It is made by Talib, what is that? Starks? Yeah, Talib Starks. Where did I get this book from? I remember there was a live stream. Good brother of mine, Tommy Sotomayor, at his live show, and he happened to have this brother on, and he was talking about his book. I just so happened to enjoy the live stream, so I went over and picked up the book. I read this book along with Behold the Pale Horse as well. I guess I might as well inform you guys if I read the books or not, but yeah, phenomenal book. It's similar to if you watched Chris Rock's stand-up specials back in the 90s. I can't remember what the name it was, but he had a famous bit when he said the difference between blacks and niggas. I would suggest you go and watch it. I'll leave a clip after, well, right now.
There's some shit going on with black people right now. There's like a civil war going on with black people. And there's two sides. It's black people and there's niggers. And niggas have got to go.
So yeah, the basis of this clip is basically the same sort of synopsis that's in this book as well. So I would suggest you go and you get a book like this, especially if you happen to be in the black community and just like me, you cannot stand the low-hanging fruit that happens to exist inside your community, and we constantly lump every black person together. This is a book for you to read, so you can always separate yourself from the bottom of the barrel. Next, the book that I happen to read, or I should say I'm planning to read, Pat Cooper. How dare you say, how dare me? Now this, how dare me? Why did I say that wrong? But yeah, this is a comedian as well. I believe he is about 90 years old right now. Why did I pick up this book? As everybody knows, I'm a huge fan of Patrice O'Neal, and I was listening to some clips on YouTube of Pat Cooper and Patrice O'Neal, not only on Tough Crowd together, which was absolutely masterful work. I want to bring back a comedy show just like Tough Crowd, where you got a bunch of comedians just being comedians and everything is hilarious. But they had an interview together on O&A, Opie and Anthony, and it was absolutely absolutely masterful. Some of the best listen I've ever had in my life, or I should say one of the best listens. The last one that I said didn't really sound audible, but nonetheless, yeah, one of the best listens I've ever had in my life. So he did promote his book. I have it here. I am yet to read a page. I have to. So again, very good comedian, I might add as well. One of I don't want to say ahead of his time, but one of the best of his time. So Pat Cooper, how dare you say how dare me? I'm yet to read it, but this is also on Amazon, just like The Uncivil War Between Blacks and Niggas. The next book that I happen to have here, I picked it up recently. Those of you who follow me on Snapchat, Instagram, you've seen it. I believe it was about 2 months ago. The book from Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, the antidote to chaos. So, Jordan Peterson, those of you who don't know who he is, I believe he's out of Canada. Some call him a professional provocateur, just like they say from Annapolis, but that's not the case. But he was also a professor. I think he rose to superstardom based on him challenging a bunch of students. But there was something dealing with trans pronouns, something like a couple years ago. I remember watching a ton of the live streams, a ton of the videos and the debates. But yeah, recently I watched his debate with Michael Eric Dyson. I believe it was also, there was another woman that was there, and there was a gentleman named Stephen Fry. Absolute masterful debate. So if you're into debates, this one's 2 hours long, but it is very, very marvelous to listen to. The way they command the English language, it's something beautiful for your ears. But yeah, he said something about his book at the end of it. So I said, you know what, this brother right here, this man is brilliant. Let me get his book. I would love to hear his thoughts put down in text. So I bought the book. Yet to read it. As you see, it is still yet to be, you know, taken out of the plastic. So yeah, there's one of the books that I happen to have inside of my house. Now next I have the Miseducated Negro. I remember reading this book back when I was working in the airport in the year of 2015. Very good book. And this was made by Carter Goodwood Woodson. I can't remember what year this came out, but a very, very good book about miseducation. As you can see, it's right in the title. As for the details of the book that was inside, I don't want to say I forgot. I'm having quite the blur right now, but it regarded dealing with education, individuals not being told the right things. This can be found on Amazon as well. Also, it goes back to like financial literacy, other things like that. I would suggest you go and you pick this up here, because a lot of people who happen to be Negro like myself, we spend our times trying to chase booty, trying to chase the bag instead of chasing wealth. So yeah, pick up a book like this, chase some wealth, and you know, increase your assets. Next book that I happen to have here, 2 books of one of my favorite comedians of all time, Mr. Bernie Mac. I believe there are 2 of the 3 books he's ever written, or 2 of the 2 books that he ever written. I don't know what the case was, but the first one is Bernie Mac How Life Is. I ain't scared. Oh, Bernie Mac on How Life Is. I was trying to read it as if it was a full goddamn title. Now I sound like I can't read. But Bernie Mac's on How Life Is. I ain't scared of you. Alright, so if you remember back to his famous stand-up when he went to the Def Comedy Jam, I believe he said something, I ain't afraid of you, all that other stuff. Here's a clip here.
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
But yeah, I believe this was his first book that he put out. So yeah, I'm yet to read this book. And the second book is Maybe You Can Never Cry Again, or Maybe You Never Cry Again, Bernie Mac. I'm yet to read this book as well, but I have it here. So these 2 books, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Bernie Mac, one of my top 5 comedians of all time. At least I'll say influences, but I'll get to that a little bit later on. But yeah, these 2 books, I happen to have them here, yet to read them. I plan on reading them at one point in the future. The next book that I happen to have here as well, The War Against Boys. Now, I did have another book by Helen Smith. I remember they had a couple of, they had one page that ended up going viral and it kept getting shared. Her book was called Men on Strike. I don't have that book with me right now, but it was also here. I read both books back to back. This one, The War Against Boys by Christina Hoff Sommers, the actual feminist. Now, I would suggest if you happen to be a man, and for those of you who subscribe to me about the situations dealing with like Me Too, real critical thought, anti-feminism, feminism, whatever the case was, I'd suggest you read a book like this. Very, very, very informative, especially with the attack on masculinity, the attack on men, the constant gynocracy we happen to live in, gynocentrism being done in the media, all that other stuff. I would suggest you get a book like this, Christina Hoff Sommers, The War Against Boys. This is crucial for men out there. Crucial. Read this doggone book. Next that I have over here, Let's see. I gotta move the books around, but other books that I have over here. Give me 1 second. I probably should cut this, but I'm not going to because we're gonna keep it authentic, you know. Next book, we got New Money by New Money, Staying Rich, Philip Buchanan. Now, if you don't know who Philip Buchanan is, he went to the University of Miami. I believe he was on the championship team in 2001. He got drafted by, was it the Texans? No, it wasn't the Texans. No, I think it was the Texans. I can't remember who it was. He was either the Texans. No, yeah, I think it was the Texans. He got right. He got drafted by the Texans. He also played on the Lions, also played on the Raiders. Now, he made a book about how his mother, immediately, the signing day, once he got drafted and signed his contract, his mother said that she owed him $1 million for raising him. Right? He speaks about in the book how people around you can screw you over when the clout comes in. So, if you are a fan of financial literacy and being able to take care of your money, also trying to expose those snakes in your circle, I would suggest you pick up a book like this. Phenomenal read, New Money, Staying Rich by Philip Buchanan. Next, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Oh, by the way, I read that book as well. What book haven't I read? Yeah, I read those books. The only last book that I didn't read, I believe that was the Bernie Mac book. But yeah, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I read this book as well. Very good book by T. Harv Elker. Buddy of mine who happens to run his own business on Instagram. My buddy Jamond. I'll leave his Instagram next. And yeah, he suggested this book to me, I believe it was in 2015. Very, very, very good book. Speaking about financial, how to save money, how to make money, invest money, what to do with your money. Again, going back to financial literacy, this tells you something about what the hell I do with my money. I'm not a big dumbass. I haven't worked a job in over a year, and I'm perfectly fine. You think YouTube's sending me a bunch of checks? They not, all right? I know how to save my money, invest my money, make my money, all right? So yeah, I would suggest you pick up this book if you want to make money, especially what to do with your income right now, instead of going out there and splurging and tricking on hoes for the women out there. Instead of tricking on fellas, take your money, invest it, make money back. Pick up this book, very good book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Elker. I know it by heart because I remember reading this book. Next, 50 Shades of Grey.
What?
Little nasty!
I'm not sure what the hell is this doing here. I don't remember when it got in there. I watched all of the movies. I didn't really want to, but it just happened to be in there while I was movie hopping. Yes, I steal movies. I have to save money. Of course, I'm a frugal individual. On top of that, I am the founder of #Team Scheme. So of course, but yeah, the book is here. I've never read it. I watched the films. What's the purpose of rereading the book? But then again, I was a bit curious. Now I'm remembering why I have this book. I was curious because there was like women out there who's like, oh my God, it's like word porn. And then all of a sudden they came to work. When I was working in the airport, all these ladies reading this book, they come to work, their hands smelling like secretion. I'm like, what's going on? Maybe it's a little bit spicy. So let me find out what they all talking about. But I never got into the meat of the book. I never actually started reading the book. As you can see, the first page has no prints of my eyes on it. So
What the hell does that mean?
probably have to read this book in the future, but it was made by E.L. James. Not sure who that is. I believe it's probably a woman. But yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. It's in there. Number two is like, I don't know what number it is. Tao of Wu. All right, this was made by RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. Phenomenal book. Might I add, this is the easiest read I ever had in my life. The pages, I mean, like the words, they're like minimalized. It's easy to read, but the way he worded everything, just phenomenal, right? Stupendous. But yeah, it was made of RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. He speaks about his upbringing. He also speaks about his time in the Wu-Tang Clan, time after the Wu-Tang Clan, just life in general. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. I see why it was the New York Times bestseller. I suggest if you're a fan of hip-hop, for you hip-hop fans out there, pick up a book like this. It is wonderful read. Next, I have Dwayne Wade, Family First. Everybody knows my favorite basketball player of all time happens to be Dwayne Wade. I am a Miami Heat fan as well. My buddy Kenny, who you usually see me go on kayaking trips with, who leaves me in the water when I start to sink.
You lost the boat! No, we can't go anywhere! No.
He gave me this book. Phenomenal book. I actually got halfway through it and then I stopped reading because something came up. I got to the point where the pictures were and then I stopped reading from there. So yeah, very good book regarding his life. Very eye-opening, especially his upbringing and dealing with his ex-wife and, you know, him not having somewhere to be. Phenomenal, phenomenal book. All right, next I have Being Logical. Now everybody who knows me, now who's the author? D.Q. McHenry? McHenry? Yeah, something like that. I don't know what I can't pronounce it. I'm having a brain fart right now. But yeah, Being Logical, good book. I read this back in 2015, speaking about basic logic, deriving conversation, being able to connect different sort of points, coming to conclusions much faster. Speaking how I speak, coming to a conclusion whenever trying to make points. What am I saying? Trying to speak to the point where people understand what it is that you're trying to say, also being able to break down what somebody's also saying. So this book, phenomenal. When you're dealing with logic, I consider myself to be a logical individual. I would suggest you pick up this book as well. Very good book. I wish I could pronounce the goddamn name of the person, but if you just search Being Logical book, maybe this photo might pop up. If it doesn't, well, tough titty. Next, Stand by Your Manhood by Peter Lloyd. Again, going back to what I said with the Christina Hoff Sommers War on Boys book, going back to the other stuff dealing with like the men's rights and all the other stuff, I would suggest you pick up this book. With a constant attack that we as men have been getting under over the past couple of years, you pick up a book like this, Stand by Your Manhood. As you can see, I'm not done yet. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I believe I read through 230 pages. I've got 80 pages left to go. So yeah, almost done with this book. Phenomenal book so far. Very good quotes out there. Makes you feel like a man. Makes you happy to be a man. I suggest you pick up a book like this. Next, The Manipulated Man, Esther Villar. Very good book. Same concept. Same concept. Also points out the wickedness of women as well. So you've got to make sure you stay on game. I keep my pimp hand strong for a doggone reason. So yeah, I would suggest you pick up a book like this. I also have The Rational Male by Rollo. I can't remember what his last name was. But yeah, I have The Rational Male here somewhere. It's not in my book stash, but it's somewhere around here. My old college roommate and also my high school classmate, he suggested the book to me. The people, when you hear the ending instrumental, the ending instrumental, that's him. He made the instrumental. Also my college roommate as well. So I'll leave his SoundCloud, which I think is always in the description. But yeah, he gave me that book, same sort of concept dealing with men, but that one gives you game on different sort of like, you know, the makings of men and women and how we operate ourselves. And the other book that I have, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, very good book, just like the Master of the Millionaire Mind, How to Deal with Money. Good book. I suggest you pick this up over there too. And then I have the Constitution of the United States of America, because I just so happen to make sure I keep myself educated on the laws. And next book that I have here, this one might surprise people and also piss people off as well, Mein Kampf.
No! No!
Adolf Hitler. Now,
is a no good, lousy son of a bitch. That's exactly what he is. But he's a no good bastard for what he did, and he ought to burn in hell for it.
now let me explain to you why the hell I have an Adolf Hitler book manifesto in my house. Because I was always fascinated by Hitler.
You what?
What the hell is it with everybody saying that he's the worst human of all time? So that kind of piqued my interest. So I've always wanted to know what made Hitler Hitler. So I read the book, and I must say, fascinating stuff. I also watched a film, which if you have 6 hours of your time, if you consider yourself a historian like myself, I would suggest you watch this film. It is called The Greatest Story Never Told, Adolf Hitler. It is 6 hours long. If you ain't got nothing better to do, I would suggest you watch this film. Phenomenal stuff. Really shows you the second half of the Hitler story, because if you really look at it, throughout education, what we've been told, it's only been one side. Everybody says, well, he's a villain, all this other stuff, but if you look at what Hitler did up until he started killing them Jews in 1938, it is absolutely phenomenal. He came to power in 33, and then between the time up until 38, mind you, this man was the Time Man of the Year here in the United States. Time Man of the Year, 1938. There's a reason for that, because he took Germany at the bottom after World War I and took them to the top 5 in the world. If there's nothing congratulatory to say for that, I don't think I should be speaking. Then he kind of went off the rails, talking about, oh, let's go out there and exterminate the Jews. Wait a minute, Hitler, we just trying to get Germany back to the top. No, we need to kill the Judas. Wait a minute. Suck my nuggets. Wait a minute. What's going on? Lush, my inswat. Whoa, calm it down.
Merch! Es ist Zeit verrat!
Wir müssen die Juden aufhalten.
Es ist Zeit bereit!
Wir müssen die Juden aufhalten.
Nervous. tried to have all the Jews exterminated last spring.
He started to lose his mind and you know, went off the rails. But nonetheless, very good read. If you are interested, what made the worst man in history the worst man in history, I suggest you pick up Mein Kampf. And finally, last but not least, Speak Fluid Man by Vaughn DeCarlo. The book about my favorite comedian of all time, Patrice O'Neal. I suggest if you are a Patrice O'Neal fan, pick up this book. If you love the man, pick up this book. You're a fan of comedy, pick up this book. It's the only sort of literary work that has anything to do with Patrice O'Neal as of right now. Obviously, Patrice can't write no book, but yeah, this book, very emotional, at least for me, because Patrice was my favorite comedian of all time. Now, alright, turns out the camera cut off at about the 19th minute mark, and it was telling me that I gotta move on to the next doggone topic. See, this is something that you really need a podcast for, rather than a long, drawn-out video. But nonetheless, I said I was gonna mix the damn topics together, so I'm gonna mix the damn topics together. I'm a man of my words, stumbling on my words because I'm tired, I'm sweating, perspiring, and I still ain't ate yet, but we gonna get the damn video done. Now, my comedic influences throughout my entire career, right now, and also before I decided to become a comedian. Now, everybody knows who's my favorite comedian of all time. I'll touch on him last.
You what?
But my influences, they range from Rodney Dangerfield. Fun fact for you, Chiseled Adonis fact. You should write this down. Don't write it down. It's not that doggone serious. The very first show that I ever had to do, or I should say the very first show that I ever did that was advertised, it was at the Dangerfields Comedy Club. So if that's something that you want to tell people, Chiseled Adonis fact, there's one for you. Rodney Dangerfield, the king of one-liners in my opinion. This man was absolutely hilarious. One of my inspirations for delivering one-liners. Now, also, I have Greg Giraldo. This man, God rest his soul, died 2010, I believe. But he was so fast and frantic in his delivery. It was absolutely masterful to watch. His preparation before, hilarious, all right? He used to be on Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn. It was great stuff. I watched a ton of his stand-up stuff. He was the master of roast through Comedy Central throughout the entire 2000s. Hilarious man. Jim Norton. What other names? Bill Hicks. Great guys, great on the mic. Jim Norton does not get the credit he deserves in this comedy game. He should. This man's hilarious. Bill Hicks, his touch on politics, his way to imitate voices, or I should say make sounds with his mouth, hilarious. And on top of that, he was a dude who simply did not give a shit about anything. Joan Rivers, I loved how raw she was, period. The lady looked like her face was melting throughout the majority of her life, but nonetheless, she was absolutely hilarious. When it comes to funny women, she's #1 at the top of funny women all time, in my opinion. Next, Bill Burr. Masterful, masterful. If you haven't seen his rant on Philadelphia live for about 10 minutes, masterful work. Comic genius. Next, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. Those two, masterful, masterful. Masters of their game. Beautiful. Music to my ears. George Carlin, Richard Pryor. Those two, goats, all right? Goats. Influenced my entire career. Influenced me getting into it, especially George Carlin, a little bit more than Richard Pryor. Bernie Mac, man was hilarious. He was on. I don't think Bernie Mac ever got booed. This man, masterful. And #1, last but not least, I don't know if you could see it. I think the light may be reflecting it. But Mr. Patrice O'Neal. I keep this in my room, all right? When I go to sleep, I keep this in my room. Keep this man's presence around me because he's the reason why I decided to get into comedy. The reason why I had the confidence to get into comedy. And on top of that, if there's one regret, that sound mad Haitian when I said, if there was one regret I have in my life, it was never meeting this man. Because I wish I could tell him how much he changed my life. His analogy game changed my life. The way he was able to speak about things and derive his truth, absolutely masterful. Now, as for the quote that's on this, it says,
yeah, liars don't like me.
Liars.
Yeah, people who lie. People who live a lie. There's people that love living lies. There's people that actually, the word brutal honesty, I was thinking about that the other day. Like the word brutal honesty is just a dumb term. Like I don't even understand who wants their honesty. Like brutal should be associated with lying.
Okay.
You're a brutal liar.
Right.
As opposed to somebody that just is gonna inform you of what they believe the truth to be.
Right.
And sometimes what is the truth.
I love honest shit, man. You can't fuck with the truth. And I remember when he said it was on a, I believe it was an interview with some guy who he just kept hassling throughout the entire interview. It was about like 36 minutes about straight up honesty. It was a masterful interview. I keep this inside of my room because Patrice O'Neal's my favorite comedian of all time, period. But yeah, those are my comedic influences. I feel like I left somebody out. It'll probably come to me afterwards. I'll probably write in the comment section. But yeah, that is the video. God damn it. So these are the books that I read. You can't see what I'm pointing at. I'm actually pointing at the books. They're clearly not in the frame. And my favorite comedians of all time and my comic influences, they're there as well. So if you happen to see how I deliver my comic form or how I think, the way that I think, if you look to some of those, you see it's books and also some of the influences as well. This has been way too long. I'll probably end up touching on this on a podcast or something like that if somebody asks me a question. So you'll see it in a smaller, confined form. So for those of you who actually made it to the end, congratulations to the 2 of you. And the other 2 just so happen to be me on my burner accounts, all right? The view may say like 800. All of them are me. I'm the only one watching this. You may be looking on your computer. You didn't want to click on this video. It's me who clicked on it through the surface of your laptop, computer, phone, whatever it was. I'm in your device. You better call the device maker because I'm in there. But nonetheless, this has been fun. For those of you who actually happen to make it here at the end, I sincerely thank you for listening to my rambling and my horseshit. As you can see, I am perspiring way too much. I have to go get something to eat. Alright, gotta get me something to drink. That's not an adult beverage, but of course I can indulge in that. But I am the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. I hope this was somewhat informative to you. I'm going back to the shadow realm. I am the Chiseled Adonis. So what's on? Nancy!